Alright, a very good morning to all of you flight sim fans out there. Welcome back for another episode of A Pilot's Life here with Captain S, and I'm happy to be bringing you another long-haul flight in the Dash 8. Long haul being a relative term, of course, but for the Dash 8, anything much over an hour and a half to 2 hours is definitely a long-haul flight. So today's flight is it's going to be another doozy. It's basically the return leg of the one we did last week. So for anyone who didn't know, last week we went Toronto, Myrtle Beach. So this week we're doing the reverse. I'm just going to pull it up really quick here on my Navigraph just to give you the quick overview here. And if I could just find a way to get this over there. There we go. And so there it is. I'll close that drawer so you can see it a little better. So it's a pretty long slog. Myrtle Beach all the way up to Toronto. It's, I don't even know how many miles, but it's got to be probably about 700 miles, I think. 600 miles. It's I can find it here anyways. The Great Circle distance is 601 miles. So it's going to be probably all told by the time we fly at about 650 miles, give or take. So it's a pretty decent jog in this airplane. It's definitely going to add some pay credit to my pilot's life salary and give me a little more chance to earn some experience points. So without further ado, we're going to get the show on the road because it's going to be a long one. We'll just get my charts out of the way, and here we are. All right, so before we do anything else, of course, we quickly go back into A Pilot's Life here and just make sure we're all set. So again, here we are. We're still hanging out here. Still the same junior first officer. Got almost 12 experience points. I need to get 50 at least for my first promotion. I did, however, and it's a happy day. Just after my last stream, I got paid. I got $105.80 in my bank account thanks to my $13 an hour salary and the less than 8 hours of flying I did in the last month. But it is something. I could go here and see if I can afford anything in the shop. For $100, I might be able to get something, maybe. I can get a few vanity items, some regular sunglasses. I can get myself a shirt as a pilot. Ooh, it's always important to wear a shirt or a gold pin. Not a whole lot that you can get. And none of the bonus materials I can afford yet. A flight bag being one of the cheapest bonus materials, but it does get, at that point, I get a bonus 5% experience points in every flight, which helps me grow a little faster. Other than that, there's not much else. I can get some virtual currency, invest my money into stocks and bonds to make a little extra money every month, or I can invest my money in getting extra experience points every month. So these are things I can save my pennies towards. It's definitely going to be a bit of a long slog to get enough money saved up for even just this. Probably another month's worth of work before I can get even my flight bag. But nevertheless, we're going to carry on. So on to the first flight of the day. The only flight of the day. I'm only going to have time for one today. It's a long flight. It's Myrtle Beach to Toronto. And as always, we can change the aircraft. I've already got it pre-selected here. I just dialed it up and put in Whiskey Echo Juliet, which was the same aircraft I was flying the day before that. I keep flying the one particular Dash 8. Load it up in my sim brief. And generate myself a flight plan. And I guess the first thing we really should be doing, first of all, is filing the flight plan. So let's make sure that our flight plan, actually I'm just going to have a quick peek at it. You know what I didn't do? I didn't up the fuel load, so let's do that right now. Because I'm unhappy just going with the min fuel, and I didn't add any extra fuel. You always want to add a little bit of extra fuel for contingencies, for unknowns that might happen. In the Dash 8, let's see here, sorry. In the Dash 8, just a couple £100 is considered contingency. Reasonable contingency. Depends on the situation. If the weather's looking bad, your destination at all, try to take at least 500, if not £1,000. In the Dash 8, you can estimate just a total ballpark, but 2,000 pounds per hour of fuel burn, especially down towards the lower levels where you'd be holding if you're trying to get into an airport. So 1,000 pounds will buy you 30 minutes. 500 pounds, it'll buy you 15 extra minutes. That's enough to definitely do a second approach, have minor delays. But if you can, even 500 pounds, especially if you suspect there's going to be any kind of major delay. I don't think there's going to be a major delay. We're flying the VATSIM network today. It is a little snowy in Toronto, but it's not terrible from a weather perspective. I'm just going to load up the alternate weather here, see if I like it. I don't really like that alternate for weather. Let's pick a different alternate. Let's see if the snow has stopped there. Definitely a better alternate. We're going to use London, Ontario as the alternate today just because it offered me Trenton, but the snow that happened this morning is moving that direction. It seems to have basically petered out already in London, so that makes that a much better alternate. And with that done, we'll generate our flight plan again here. It's thinking. It's thinking. SimBrief is doing its thing. It's a lot of information that it has to go through. So I don't fault it that it takes a few minutes for it to get through it all. Now we've got a flight plan. Blocking full fuel. Extra 5,000 pounds. I didn't mean to put 5,000 pounds. I meant to put 500 pounds. Let's fix that. We don't need an extra, 5,000 pounds. We need an extra 500 pounds. I might even put 1,000 just because of the snow, if it does start to snow heavily and we do need to hold for any length of time. There we go. All right, go back to generating that really quickly. Thinking about it. It's important to have a valid flight plan, a good plan of action before you go to town here. There we go. Still blocking almost full fuel, 93.82. No dispatch remarks, which means we're not weight limited based on the randomized passenger load it selected for today. So we're going to go ahead and pre-file our flight on VATSIM here. Just to make sure it's all set here. Just have to put in the password, otherwise it doesn't work, does it? Alright, there it is. That's filed. Hopefully it should already be here. And it is. Good. Alright, so we're already connected to the network. It's already showing up as filed, which is great. Next thing is to just bring up the actual flight plan. I find it much easier to read this than the summary. The summary page is great for a summary, but this is the page that actually has all the details of the flight plan we're trying to use. It's important to have it up handy most of the time. So just to scroll quickly through it, flight time, or airtime anyways today, 2 hours and 9 minutes. Our block fuel, 9,300 pounds. However, it doesn't look like we're running into a weight and balance issue. Even with 71 people, I find that hard to believe. It's only because it has planned at 0 cargo. I'm going to cut that back a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and import this into the weight and balance right now, but I am going to definitely cut that back. So first of all, the fuel we're going to need 9,300 pounds. It's basically the same as last time, 93, 94. And Myrtle Beach is always a passenger limiting run. Anything much over 2 hours in the Dash 8, you start to run into limits. If you try to take a full load, you may not have enough fuel to make it to the destination with a reasonable amount of alternate fuel. So flights to places like Toronto to Myrtle Beach or anything long like that tend to be capped in a Dash 8. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 passengers. Depends on the airline. They figure out exactly what's optimal for them, but they will not sell every seat in the airplane because to do so is inviting trouble. I kind of like the weight and balance as it is, really. 64 passengers again, 1,800 pounds of cargo. That's pretty realistic, so we're going to go ahead and send that data to the flight sim. Of course, it pauses the flight sim. Unpause it really quick. Airplane bounces around as the new people are loaded, and I think we're good to go. Alright, so we got ourselves a flight plan. It's all filed with ATC. Let's go ahead and call up on GSX and say, hey, we're going to definitely need some fuel here, buddy. And while we're at it, we're also going to request boarding for this flight. Now, I'm at a freeware upgraded airport, so we don't have a working jet bridge, unfortunately. The jet bridge is just there to look pretty, but it's actually funny because in Myrtle Beach, this is actually a somewhat realistic situation, partly realistic. At the Myrtle Beach airport, what's the best perspective? Probably this one right here. U.S. Customs is actually can't be reached through any of the jet bridges. It's normally only a domestic airport, so in order to get to U.S. Customs, passengers actually have to deplane at this one gate, Bravo 1, and then walk on the tarmac around the corner to an entrance to the U.S. Customs facility where they can be processed. Once the passengers are offloaded, then normally the bridge is put on the aircraft to board the departing passengers, because they can board from in the lounge because they'll clear customs when they get to Canada. But in order to clear customs when they're entering the United States, oftentimes they won't use this bridge and they'll go around the corner to the U.S. Customs office. So it is somewhat realistic to not have the bridge attached today. Very good. So now we're going to go ahead and get this show started here. Just climbed on board. The plane is already powered up for us, which is great. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hop into the FMC right here. this should be, let me just check. Yeah, that's lined up perfectly for you guys to see what we're doing here. So we're going to just start. Basically, we picked up right where we left off. We assumed this was kind of a turnaround that was not, the flight crew didn't go to the hotel or anything. They're just turning around and going right back to Toronto. So everything is still powered up. The flight crew maybe got out, stretched their legs, and went and cleared customs as well, and then came right back to the airplane. So from Myrtle Beach to Toronto, I'm going to pull up the flight plan on my second screen here. Take this and grab this and put it on my second screen so I can read it while I'm doing this. Okay, so fairly straightforward flight plan. We go to flow. No, she doesn't like that. Let's try this. There we go. Florence. I have a vague recollection of the name of that VOR. I thought it was Florence. Ricky. And then the fun part, list of airways. There's only one airway from Ricky. It's Q69. We take it all the way to the Ricks intersection, number 5. And then from there we go direct to Oxman. And then we do menu arrive. So there's no SID, but there is departure. It is the Verco 9 departure, or the Verco 9 arrival. Plan on 06 left. I think the batteries in my mouse are dying because it seems to be getting a little jumpy here. And that's usually the first sign it's dying on me. And we're going to plan... it should be the 06 left transition. I don't know why you're not offering that up as a default. Actually, what we'll do is, yeah, we'll do 06 left. It's weird that they have all these sort of transitions like this. It shouldn't be like this. Unfortunately, this part of the FMS is not written particularly well for North American SIDs. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go and replace these mouse batteries because I feel like they're about to die. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I know my own computer quite well, and I know some of the signs that things are not going well. And one of the things is when the mouse gets jumpy, it's definitely a sign that it's getting ready to die. And it's better changing them now than A, having a jumpy mouse that's hard to use, and B, having it fail at an inopportune time, like in the climb check or something, when we're trying to do a whole bunch of stuff and then suddenly it dies. So we're gonna change them now, make sure we're good to go. All right, things pilots don't have to normally think about in the real world is changing the mouse batteries. All right, we're going to plan departure. I'm just going to do a quick weather check here at Myrtle Beach. Winds are calm. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and plan a departure off runway 36. There is no SID in Myrtle Beach, so it's probably going to be runway heading initially, and then we'll just make a turn out once we've cleared any obstacles. And that's it. We've got the flight plan in there. Fuel. Again, straight to the fuel page of my flight plan here. My alternate requires 1413 today. My reserve fuel of 1327. That does not sound quite right. It's 42 minutes. It should be no, it's 45. Yeah, no, that's 45. Okay. No, that is 45, so that's good. You have to enter for the 0 or it doesn't accept it. And the fuel on board. Looks like we've got 9200. Was that the right amount? Seems a little low. Hold on, not 92, 94. That's right. That's exactly what we should have. Apparently I can't do math. Simple basic math escapes me. Daylight savings time ended. We're now at -5 UTC here in North America, and that's it, I think. So now we can just go ahead and cross-fill the flight plan and cross-fill the fuel. Sounds like the baggage trucks are here. Let's go ahead and switch to nav mode and see what these guys are saying. So they need a little help here. So we're going to do from Myrtle Beach to Flow. There we go. That's a little better. And probably the same thing on this side, on the FO side as well. They're not linked in this aircraft. I think a lot of operators choose to operate them that way. I know the one I was at, they chose to operate them without automatic cross-filling, just because then you could double-check the work on the inactive one first before cross-filling it to the active one. That was how it was normally done. Alright, so we've got the flight plan in. I think that's all good. And of course, I've neglected one quick thing here, so give me a moment. There we go, that's a little better. I didn't have my track IR set up properly configured for flight sim, and it gets very jumpy. It's even jumpy now. It really is quite jumpy, but it gets very jumpy when I have it in the default mode. I've turned down the sensitivity very much for flight simming because otherwise I find it was way too jumpy. So, anyways, now we're ready to just go through a quick flow here and make sure that the aircraft is configured for departure. External power is on, but we can turn the batteries on now. Ice protection is all looking good right now. I really should be. It's funny that those are flashing. We don't have a light here flashing. There we go. Little tiny programming glitches, not a big deal. Just going through. Everything should basically be in the right spot because everything should still be where we left it. Did the fuel truck show up yet? We did load the fuel through Majestic control panel, but I don't know that the fuel truck actually showed up yet. Let's just check here. I guess he showed up. Because I'm fairly sure I requested refueling. Okay, good. So if the refueling's done, perfect. Then we go belts on. That's how we signal the flight attendants that there's no fueling on board happening. And let's have a quick little look-see. Again, we're doing a takeoff at pretty much the same weight as before. We're looking at a takeoff weight of 64,000 pretty much, which I think we'll find is very similar to what we had before leaving Toronto. Let's see here, flap 5. It's a dry runway today, so we'll go with the full 136, 136, 136, 144. So these numbers change just because of the approach. And 156. So 144, 156. There we go. Altimeter setting 3024. Normally on a turn you wouldn't expect it to change that much. I don't know why the mouse is jumping. I changed the batteries. Fresh pair of batteries, so that's weird that it's jumping like that. And the field elevation here is 20, 30 feet. Where's my Navigraph charts? Anyways, we can start dialing that up while I bring it up on my... Come on. So I think it's going to be about 10:30. But let's just have a quick look at my Navigraph charts here, which we're going to need them anyways. Elevation 25 feet, so yeah, 30 feet, so 10:30, perfect. So that's all set. We're going to take off on runway 36, which has a runway heading of 357. We landed on 18 before, which is just because winds are calm and this is the direction we're going, it's just going to save us airborne maneuvering. So actually, I should be turning it the other way because we are making a right turn onto the runway. So right turn to 357. That timer is still going after 33 minutes. After engine shutdown, I should have just reset it after we shut the engines down, but anyways. We need go around, and we need heading, alt cell, and there we go. So that's all set. The FMAs are all set. Panels, there's nothing lit up. Any of the panels, the FMSs are set. The trim, let's just set that back to about a mid position. And everything's set. I don't think I have the controls configured correctly. Alright, first we got Unicom up, which is important, and I don't have the controls configured correctly. So give me one more moment. I really need to get this checklist one day set up. Okay, so there we are. So now a quick check, and you can see that the controls do move properly, so I do have this configured properly. Good. Okay. Everything's set up properly. All right, and we're in disk, fuel off. All right, and we are pretty much ready to get started here. We're going to start off with a quick little departure briefing. It's going to be fairly straightforward out of here this morning. If I can find where did my Navigraph go? Where did I put my charts? I didn't close them, did I? I must have closed them by mistake. That's useless. Thought I moved them out of the way, but I must have closed them. Alright, so we're going to head out from Myrtle Beach today. Fairly straightforward. I should actually check the NOTAMs, because last time we were here, there were some NOTAMs about some taxiway closures, so we'll check them again in a second. But for the most part, it's a very simple, straightforward airport layout. We're up here at the terminal, and we've got one runway. We're going to depart runway 36. I just have to determine if the taxiways here, Alpha, between the ramp and Alpha 1 is closed or not, and if so, we may have to just backtrack the full length from Alpha 4. There is no SID. There are no SID charts for Myrtle Beach, so we're just going to basically climb straight out. If we look at any of the approaches here, looks like we got MSA of 2100. So if we climb straight out to at least 3000, we should be safe to turn on course and continue climbing. So we've got 3000 feet set for a top altitude here. Did I set 3024 on that altimeter? I did not. There it is. 3,000 feet and straight runway heading. That's all we're going to do initially. Once we get above 2,100 feet, we can turn on course. That's about it. Just a quick NOTAM check now. Just give me one moment while we take a quick little perusal here. Where is my NOTAMs? There they are. So we did have a problem last time, and just that a lot of the taxiways in Myrtle Beach were closed. Scroll through. And here we are, Myrtle Beach. We're not more than 215,000 pounds. Alpha 4 closed except crossing. Alpha between Terminal 1 and Alpha 1 work in progress. Construction Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3 closed. So Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3 closed, so it seems like we should be using Alpha 4 at the very least to get to the runway, so we'll do that. Alright, so it'll be a straight out taxi from Alpha 4. There we go. That's decided. Alright, other than that, I think we're just about ready to go. We've got our flight plan filed. We've got no ATC online to talk to, so we do have Unicom 122.8 dialed in. We'll make appropriate radio calls, but in the meantime, we can get started with a before start checklist. However, before I do that, I'm going to do the one thing that I learned from last time. It's not in the before start checklist, but we should always check it. Gear pins not installed. Good. Alright, before start checklist. Circuit breakers, check left and right. And escape hatch is closed. Battery master main aux standby is on, and seatbelts are on. Flight taxi is taxi. Yaw damper is on. Fuel quantity is 9,200 pounds, and that checks, that's what we need. 9,400 pounds, sorry, that checks what we need. Emergency brake pressure is on and checked. Power levers are disk, condition levers are fuel off, and the takeoff briefing is complete. The before start check is complete. Just need to make sure my ACAR system is initialized as well here. So we have not. Let's make sure we click start flight so it starts tracking this whole flight. And there we go. Now we're being tracked. Perfect. Alright, the ACAR system is ready to go, and we are all set. So we're going to go ahead and close up those doors outside. There goes one, and we can close the back door as well. Nope. Nope. I'm trying to get it to close the back door. There it goes. And the front door. There we go. Everybody's all closed up. And we can call our ground crew and say we are ready for pushback and departure. We're going to do tail to the right. And we're going to say no to starting engines before pushback, even though we are actually going to do it because it just works better with GSX. Alright, so here they come. And we are pretty much ready to go here, I believe. So, let's go ahead with the start approved check. Start approved check. Nose steering is off. The transponder.
We're ready for pushback.
We're we're going to go on Alt. Let's see here. The spawner's on Alt. The doors and fueling lights are out. APU bleed is off, and the anti-collision is going to... Oops, wrong way. Ah! Red. My kingdom to shut down that left-click menu, right-click menu. Alright, starter proof check is complete. Alright, clear on 2. That's the ground crew as far as I can see. Anyways, it looks like it's clear on 2, so we're going to go ahead and start engine 2. Get rotation on number 2. I don't know why those popped up to the full position, but there it is. Anyways, that's where it should be. Alright, we do have light off. You can see the ITT slowly rising there. GSX is hassling me to remove the GPU, but not before we start the engine. That's engine adapter heat 2. When we discuss ice protection, we'll learn about the engine adapter heats. Alright, there we go. We got 64%, 210. It looks like everything is stable on number 2. Turn off the external power. Just check that the number 2 generator does hold enough load. It does. Alright, and we signal to our ground crew, you may remove the GPU. Fortunately, Buddy's got his hand right on it there. Turn it off and take it away, please. Snap your fingers and away it goes. And it's gone. Alright, we just need clearance from these guys.
Locking gear. Departure check.
Pity the bridge doesn't move. It's a nice looking bridge.
Release parking brakes.
Very good.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
I know, it was an error. We didn't mean to do it multiple times like that. Alright. We're on our way back to Toronto. Clear on 1. And that's the ramp guy, and he gives us a signal. Starting engine 1. Could have sworn we said tail to the right. Could have sworn we said tail to the right, guys. Engine adapter heat 1. I don't know where you're going. Alright, that's engine adapter heat 1. It looks like we got stable start on number 1 as well. Got 2 good starts. I could have sworn we said tail to the right. Gonna have to go back to kindergarten and teach you left and right again, buddy. Alright, you're left, I guess. I don't know what these guys are doing, but they're killing me here. It's a tail to the right, guys. We gotta go behind this.
Set parking brakes.
I sigh. Well, I mean, it's a pretty big apron. We can get around you, but just why even ask us if you're only gonna push us one way? All right, that was parking brake.
Unlocking gear. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass been removed.
Thank you, guys. Alright, these guys are all clear. We're going to go ahead and bring the condition levers to max. And for any of you real dash drivers out there,
Left is clear. Right is clear.
when you bring the condition levers out of max, bring the power levers about halfway between disc and flight.
Clear to start engines.
At disc, it makes a lot of noise. Check, thank you. See ya. But if you go just about halfway between, there's a nice little sweet spot where it's actually fairly quiet. So that's what our operator taught us anyways for passenger comfort while we're just sitting here on the ground. You bring them to disc to stop, but then as soon as you get the parking brake set, just bring them back up about halfway between flight and disc. And it's just a lot less noise in the airplane. Alright, anyways, in the meantime, let's go ahead and do the after landing, or the after start flows, whatever time it is. I know what I mean, and you know what I mean, right? Don't need any ice protection today. Alright, and then we're going to switch to the FO's flow. He's going to get the bleeds on. We're going to go ahead and set flap 5. Alright, and the captain's first of all going to check the rudders. Make sure we get full deflection on the rudders. And I'm sorry, I've got a cable that's in my way there. There we go. Alright, and then captain can put the nose wheel steering back on. Meanwhile, the FO is going to check the rest of the controls. Elevators. And ailerons. And then we can call for the after start checklist. After start checklist, start select light is out. External power and APU are both off. Bleed air 1 and 2 is min and on. Ice protection is all standard. Caution and warning lights are checked, just a parking brake. Battery temps and loads. Yeah, they all check. Tank ox pumps 1 and 2 are on. Auto feather is AF select. Engine rating is normal takeoff power 90%. Standby high press P2 controller on. Height, press, and quantity checks. Height 3 and elevators are checked. Flight controls are checked and free. And the de-ice, oops, sorry, just got to slide over just far enough so it doesn't trigger off my track IR. De-ice pressure is checked. The flap is 5 set and indicated. Condition levers are max. Nose steering is on. And radar navcom set, and PMDG is set. After start checklist is complete. And away we go. There we go, taxi light on. And away we go. We're going to go ahead and taxi out Alpha 4 as was previously stated. Silly foggy windows. Windshield heat is on for no reason, only because Majestic likes to fog up. Alright, over to Alpha 4, and a quick backtrack, and a quick traffic call. Myrtle Beach traffic, it's Encore 3655. We are preparing to backtrack runway 36 from intersection Alpha 4 for departure. There we go, and a quick taxi check. The taxi light is on. The altimeters, we got 3, 0, 4, 1, 2, and 3 set. Takeoff warn is tested, and we'll see if the cabin is secure. Taxi check is complete. Alright, we're getting ready to enter runway 36 here for the backtrack. I don't see anybody coming as far as I can see. The FO concurs, and we're going to go ahead and put the strobes on for being on a runway. I'm going to try to do a better takeoff than last time. The flight down to Myrtle Beach, the takeoff was a little brutal. I should have just stopped the takeoff when I saw the heading bug was not set correctly. If you had an FO, you could also get them to spin it around really quick, but trying to control an airplane while manipulate anything in the takeoff role. It's not a good idea in flight sim world. Not a good idea when you're essentially flying solo, which is the strange thing about the flight sim world that you do all the time. Alright, farewell Myrtle Beach, back to Toronto, where winter has returned with a vengeance this morning. And I should also say happy chart update day to everyone out there. Before we started the stream, of course, we had to do the Navigraph chart update to make sure everything is hunky-dory. We've got the up-to-date charts, we've got the up-to-date FMS database. I don't know if anything really changed along our route, but you've got to be ready for it. So according to the NOTAMs, there's some construction happening on some of these taxiways down here. That's why we're backtracking the full length of the runway. Given that it's quiet on VATSIM, it's not an issue. It is morning on VATSIM, so it's not very busy. However, I am planning the next at least 1 or 2 streams. We're supposed to do a Boston turn. It's probably going to play hell on my frame rate, but I would really like to do it with lots of traffic online and some live ATC. So the next turn we may do it as an evening turn at some point, just for the sake of getting some traffic and getting some live ATC control. It'll make the stream, I think, a little bit more interesting. I won't have time to chat and rant about issues per se if we're doing that. Okay, come on, slow down. It's weird because in the sim it's hard to get that sense of motion sometimes. Yeah, let's just see if we can do a better job lining up here, and then we'll do the before takeoff checklist. Gotta remember, this airplane's long and the main gear is about 50 feet behind you. There we go. Alright. So let's do the before takeoff, or the lineup check really quickly. So cabin crew suites for departure. And the lineup check. FA notification is PA. Transponder is on alt. TCAS is TA only. MFDs are both terrain. Bleed Air 1 and 2 is min and on, and the flight taxi is flight. Lineup check is complete. Cleared for takeoff by me. Lights on. Alright, and a quick check. The heading bug is centered, and so is the pink needle this time. It's going to go a little better than last time. Alright, check power. And 90 knots. B1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. There's 1030, flap 0, bleeds on, and climb power. Now let's go ahead, autopilot on. We're going to go ahead and pitch down a little more. And we're looking for at least 2,000 feet to turn on course. Let's go ahead and get ourselves up to our cruise altitude, which should be 24 initially, and then eventually we're going to turn east and go to 25. There's 24. And we're going to just go ahead and turn direct to our first destination. I don't see, or our first waypoint, I should say. See anything out there? DTO, number 2 flow, and nav mode. LNAVing to Florence. What a nice day out here. Just a few clouds, but it's a beautiful day out here. It's going to be a bit of a route shock by the time we get to Toronto. It's going to be a lot colder and a lot snowier.
1 minute, 1 second. 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 1 minute, 1 second
just get it to about 5,000, then we'll pitch it down to more of a en route climb. For the sake of the FO, we'll also do a direct 2 on his. There, center that needle a little better. There we go. And wait to get up to 5,000. Alright, we're on our way. Another leg underway. There's 5,000. Let's go ahead and pitch it down a little bit. Pitch it down to about 5 degrees nose up, give or take. That should give us a decent cruise, a decent climb speed. And let's go ahead and center that stupid rudder. I can see from here. Alright, now let's go ahead and do the after takeoff checklist anyways while we're waiting to center that rudder a little bit. Turn off 5 switches and chime the flight attendants if I can make track IR show you. I think we got that just about centered there, maybe even another 1 or 2 bursts. You kind of do it in short bursts just to give it a short burst and see where it falls. That's pretty close. It kind of stuck there for a second. It kind of went a little bit too far. Yeah, it's pretty close anyways for now. Alright, let's do the after takeoff checklist. Let's read it. After takeoff checklist, landing gear is up, flaps are 0, climb power is set, and the bleed air 1 and 2 is norm and on. The auto feather's now off, the tank oxygen pumps are off, standby high press PT control are norm, and engine temperature pressures, everything checks, everything's nice and green, nothing's turning yellow or red. Ice detection is currently standard plus the windshield. Cabin press temp controls, we do have a differential increasing, the cabin's starting to climb. FA notification is chimed. After takeoff checklist is complete. Okay, now we're on our way, and now we just have 2 hours to Toronto. What are we going to do for 2 hours? I hope you brought a good book. Right now we're showing 216. That's at our climb speed. What are we grounding right now? Very light winds. We're grounding 242. We're definitely going to pick up another 80 knots once we get up to cruise, so we definitely will cut that well under 2 hours. So it's going to be a little bit faster than our trip down. The trip down last week we had a very strong crosswind, but because we had to crab into it a little bit, it still reduced our en route speed. So it's a pity. I can feel the warmth out there, and it is much nicer than weather. It's not bad in Toronto. It's just a little light snow, but it's the first day we've really had any kind of snow in Toronto, so it's kind of winter is here. It truly is here now. I don't think it's that cold though in Toronto. It's -2, I believe. So it's really not that cold. And we're through 10,000. Go ahead and turn off the lights. Looks like a beautiful day. Seatbelts off. And the pressurization check again at around 10,000. You're looking for 424. I'm slightly late on it, so it's not quite, but 424 is very close anyways. So it looks like the pressurization system is operating normally, and we're underway on our way back to Toronto. I don't think it's going to be terrible by the time we get to Toronto, really. The snow is pretty much stopped. I think the sun is trying to peek through a little bit through the clouds, so it probably won't even be totally overcast by the time we get there, but definitely wintry. Definitely looks like winter. There's also a chance of snow showers pretty much all afternoon, so it's kind of not too bad right now. Partly cloudy right now, but it's going to just on and off lake effect snow for the rest of the day. But it is the first day we've had a meaningful accumulation of snow in Toronto this year. Center that heading bug. Always keep it in the middle in case your nav suddenly fails. You can just go into heading mode. Carolina is a mix of nice farmland and forested terrain. It definitely looks pretty good. It doesn't look too repetitive. The forested terrain, if you start to look this way, you start to see the pattern a little bit. It's there. But it's almost subtle enough that unless you're really looking for it, you don't notice it. Because the colors are very similar, it's easy to miss the pattern. It's funny when you've got colors that are so various and random, like the farm fields, you notice the patterns. You notice the same two square fields near each other all the time. The same little dark field, you start to notice it after a while. Take it down just a degree or two here. Don't want to lose too much speed as we're climbing. I find the Majestic is a little bit slow in the climb. The climb performance decays a little bit faster than the real aircraft. It's fairly good down low, but I find that it seems to think that this airplane is really anemic at the high altitudes, and it's not. It will climb at a reasonable rate in most cases. If it's totally full, 64,000 pounds, it might have some struggles, but I think in this case we just have to trade a little bit of vertical speed for forward speed. Get it back to about 1,000 feet per minute. We'll still be level in about 8 minutes at that rate, 7 minutes. And I'm not sure where we really make the turn eastbound. If it's Florence, I think Florence is still a little bit northwestbound. It looks like it's still a little bit northwestbound there. Even as we go now, we've cut the ET down to 209, really hasn't cut too much. 1352 is the local ETA. I don't think that's right. I think the time zone is not correct. Yeah, this is not correct for some reason. This is off by an hour. UTC is off by an hour for some reason. Strange. Alright, we're through transition, so set standard. There we go. Standard set and cross-check passing 18.6. Within a reason anyways. It's not totally bang on, but it's pretty close. We would be talking to Jacksonville Center right now, and then we get the quick switch to Washington, I think, once we make the turn here at Florence, if anybody was online. I'll tell you that I am pretty excited about the prospect of doing one of these streams with some live ATC, with some busy ATC. I'm definitely doing it in the evening. Toronto to Boston is always a busy one, so I'm happy to try and do that one. My only fear is that Boston and Toronto to fly Tampa sceneries will just kill the frame rate, especially once you start throwing in some AI traffic. So I may tweak my scenery settings, tweak the detail down, just to make the stream sustainable, so it doesn't turn into a total slideshow. Flight level 200, we got 4,000 to go. Definitely getting up into a more overcast layer up ahead. Won't be able to see much of the ground, but I think on the trip down it was almost overcast the whole way, so at least we saw some ground here for a little while. And I think, looks like we might have some empty spaces up ahead where we might see some stuff. don't care what anybody says. Some people say it's not an attractive airplane. I think it's a very attractive airplane. It's not a 747 by any means, but I think it's got... The Q400, I think, is a nice look to it. I find that the smaller dashes, they do look a little peculiar, a little too small. There's too much of just engine and tail and not much else. But I think the Q400 has a very nice look to it. This view would make more sense if the gear was down. Alright, how are we doing? Are we level yet? 2,000 to go. We're getting there. And we're pretty much at Florence, so we're going to start that turn northbound. So it looks like it's still just a little bit northwest. I think the next fix, I think Rick's, I think is where we really take a turn towards the east. So we'll have to climb up to 250 for eastbound flight. There's a turn, or Ricky anyways. This will also help get us a little bit out of the wind, so we'll get a little bit better ground speed. On the way back, we've already cut 7 minutes as we get higher here. We've already cut 7 minutes. Our ground speed's definitely picking up too as we're turning in out of the wind. That's 230 climbing 240. The FO is very silent today. I try not to talk too much in the climb. Focus on the climb, make sure the aircraft's going to level itself out once we get ourselves level and cruise. I don't have anything terribly in particular I want to rant about today, so I've kind of picked something that sort of is bugging me a little bit lately. It's not strictly flight sim related, but I'm sure that most flight simmers do have an opinion on this anyways. In the meantime, enjoy my coffee. Looking out the window. Alt star. Alright, hopefully we can get some speed back now. Slice another hopefully 10 minutes off our en route time, maybe more, as we accelerate here. You can do it. You can do it, plane. Alt. But she still has to force herself up that last couple feet. Guess we can sync that heading bug while we're doing this here. And we're just waiting for some acceleration. So we still leave the props at 900 for the acceleration. It just helps a little bit. Once you sort of get established at a speed, it's not so bad, but it's nice to have the props to sort of help get you to that cruise speed a little bit quicker, and then you can sit there and look at it. Especially since fuel is not a concern for me. It's all virtual bits anyways at this point, so let's go ahead and burn as much of it as we can. Give a little more boost to that rudder just to try and get it centered. I mean, the plane will fly just fine sideways, but it's not particularly comfortable for anybody if you're slightly leaned over the whole flight. It's also not particularly fuel efficient or speed efficient. You'll get more drag, and chances are you won't be able to attain your cruise speed as well if you're flying crooked. It's a pain in the dash. It really is. You're constantly, your hand goes to that position, and after a few months flying the dash, you don't even realize you're doing it. Your hand goes down to that switch and turns it and tweaks it this way and that constantly throughout the flight without you even doing it. Especially when you're adjusting the power. So if you're in the descent, your right hand is in one of two places. It's either on the power levers or it's on the trim switch, and it's constantly does a little trim adjustment back on the power levers. Change the power, oh, quick trim adjustment, back and forth. And it's one of those two places throughout the descent because you just need to work to keep that rudder trim centered. It's just the size of the engines. There's nothing much you can do about it. It's not necessarily a flaw with the aircraft. It's just the nature of propeller-driven aircraft. You will get asymmetric thrust, and the bigger the engine, the more power you put out of it, the more you're going to notice that. Alright, we should be able to get at least 320, 330 true out of this. So at least another 20 knots here, hopefully. Meanwhile, if you look down here, we've sliced a good 20 minutes off the original prediction, almost 30 minutes off the original prediction, to say that our ETA is 13:30 local time, instead of almost 1400. That's another thing that's simultaneously, it's a blessing and a curse of this universal FMS. It's such a simplistic FMS in some ways, but the simpler something is, the less prone it is to mistakes. Some of the Honeywell units with newer loads where they spend a lot of effort calculating the fuel burn to the destination, but then every once in a while the system glitches out and decides it can't finish the calculation. There's some performance parameters missing and it can't finish the calculation at all, whereas this one will pretty much never glitch out because it's such a simple calculation. It's just simply, what speed are we going? How many miles do we have to go? Great, this is how long it'll take us to get there. No accommodations for descents or climbs or anything else like that. Like I said, it's a mixed blessing because the simplicity of it means that it's likely not to fail. But on the flip side, then you've also got to take into account how things are going to work out in the descent. One thing I've got to do as well, now that we're level here in cruise, is just check my flight plan at the Toronto end, because I remember that I was not happy with the way the star was programmed in. And I think we're missing at least one or two waypoints there, so give me a second here. Let's pull up Navigraph, and let's go ahead and... Alright, so we got Navigraph here. Let's go ahead and close this. We don't need Myrtle Beach anymore. What we do need is Toronto. And I can't remember if Oxman is a straight line or not. Any of these charts will tell me. It's not. There's a couple fixes on there. So it's Oxman, T-Mills, and MyPal, and then Ling. So, oops, gotta put that in there. T-Mills, MyPal, and then Ling, and we can delete this. No link now. And now it should be good. Now everything's in there. It is a little frustrating sometimes to watch this majestic FMS deal with the American style SIDS, North American style SIDS. Alright, I think we're probably getting about as much speed as we're going to get out of this, so let's go ahead and go cruise check. And the cruise check says altimeters. We should have 2992 set, and transpond. Sorry, I had wrong one there. Power. It's set to MCR. Fuel. We should actually do a quick fuel check here. So we're showing fuel on board over city at 4200, and our planned reserve for London is 2800. So we're showing at least 1,000 pounds extra at city or at Toronto. So it's good. Seatbelts are off. Lights are as required. Cabin press checks for cruising at 240. Cabin altitude controls are... Sorry, cabin press. Ice protection is just the standard. And the 24 hours test is not required because it was done on the other flight of this day, the leg down at Myrtle Beach. So there we go. I think even at 900, we're still going to get a little more acceleration. We're slowly squeaking a couple more knots out of it, but it's very slow at this point. So I think we got about all the speed we're going to get out of her. Still not terrible. Now that we got a few more waypoints in there, the arrival time is more realistic at 1340. And there we go. Well, we're on our way. And yeah, that's about it. So the one thing that I was going to talk about today, I didn't really know what else to talk about. There's not a whole lot happening in the flight sim world right now, but I'm sure there'll be interesting news. There's always a few things coming down. The one thing that is coming down soon that started to enter previews and is getting me a little bit excited, as much as I hate to say it, is the next generation of the PMDG 737. I bought the previous generation for FSX, and I've ranted about this before. I won't buy it again for P3D. Not the same software per se. And I realize, yes, there are differences in development, and there's things that are done in P3D that are better that FSX doesn't allow them to do. But to pay the full price again for the software, I just can't do it. I can't, in good conscience, give them that much money for what is an upgrade. And yes, things are different, but you can't tell me that there isn't some commonality between the FSX and the P3D version. So not so little commonality that you can't say you've reused some of the code, some of the development information along the way. So yes, I will agree they're different software, but there is some basis that they were developed, at a similar time. And I'm sure that the P3D version has quite a lot of basis in the FSX version. So again, paying full price, I cannot do it in good conscience. So, with that being said, the next version of the 737 is in development. It's nearing the end of development. I think it's well into the beta test phase at this point. They're still tweaking things, but I have a feeling it's going to be released probably within the next 6 months. So that's something that has me a little bit interested and excited. Again, I have such a different variety of aircraft. I have the Dash 8, which is great for sort of the shorter haul runs, but you don't want to do anything more than an hour or two in it. Transcontinental is definitely not really possible in the Dash 8 without making multiple stops. It's good as a small regional airplane. I have the 747, which is great for long intercontinental flights, but there's a lot of airports where you really can't squeeze that baby in. And then I've got some of the other ones. The Mad Dog is a nice single-engine airliner. However, it does lack range, and that's one of the things that I miss, and that's one of the reasons why I started flying the A320 was to get the range, to do transcontinental flights. You can do New York to LA without feeling like you're wasting a 747, and not just New York to LA, but just again transcontinental from one part of the continent to the other. You can make it over the mountains. You can have a decent range. So I'm kind of excited for the 737. I think the 737 is a really neat airplane. It's one of the older generation of airplanes. It's a pilot's airplane. You have to do a lot of work. Which is a mixed bag again. You have to know your airplane, and there's a certain satisfaction in the mastery of some of these older airplanes, the Mad Dogs and the 737s, where you really do have to know your airplane, and it's not just simply press one or two buttons and the airplane's fired up and ready to go. You have a lot of work to do to configure the aircraft properly for flight. From a realistic perspective, I think that's a huge disadvantage to the 737 and the older ones, but from a simmer's perspective, there's a certain amount of satisfaction from being able to do that and do that properly. So I enjoy that as an airplane, I think, more than the Airbus. The Airbus is so simplistic, there's relatively little to do in it, which is how the aircraft was designed. So there is something to be said for flying those older, I use the term older, obviously. 737 is not an ancient design, but it is a fairly old design. So I'm kind of excited for that in the not too distant future. Now, the one thing I do have that I'm that I did want to really rant about, that was sort of not really what I was aiming to talk about. What I really wanted to kind of discuss was just the state of software development these days, and it's something that affects simmers as well as everybody else, and the way software development, especially in the entertainment sphere, is handled. And it's definitely evolved. I'm just going to trim. I'm just looking down here. I'm just trimming this out here. See if we can get a few more knots. We can get it to fly in a nice straight line. There we go. See if we can get another knot or two out of her. Yeah, so I just feel like at this point we're at an interesting time in software development, and software development can happen really quickly now, and some companies encourage that, and that's great to a degree depending on what kind of software you're into. But certain software needs to be reliable. It needs to be well built, and so first thing that comes to mind when you talk about software that needs to be reliable and well built is the operating system itself, and Windows 10 is a perfect demonstration of how not to develop an operating system. It's just so full of mistakes along the way that need constant updates, and these constant forced updates oftentimes with software that has been minimally tested, that is being pushed out to the average consumer, people who don't have the time to chase down oh, how do I make my software compatible with this tiny little bug that's crept in there now that you've created. An operating system is the basis of the whole computer. It should be a relatively bulletproof system. It should not be causing failures when updates are pushed. And this is, I think, it's the part of the problem now, is that updates are no longer made available. They're now pushed on the consumer, which is, again, a double-edged sword. It's great when the update works. However, when the update has not been fully vetted and properly tested, and then it breaks things, it's very frustrating because it's not something people are opting into. It's just simply, it's pushed on them. This is it. This is your operating system now. If it's broken, too bad. And that is not a way to run an operating system. The operating system, as I said, is the basis of your computer. It should be essentially bulletproof. We shouldn't be testing things on the end user when it comes to the operating system. People are relying on these systems to do all sorts of different things for them, whether it be gaming, but businesses rely on these systems to be rugged and usable day to day. And when a system like this fails, when your computer system goes down now, even the most non-tech-based business, it has huge implications. Basically, businesses can't function. A lot of businesses cannot function without their IT infrastructure. Even something as simple as like a fast food joint, they need their IT infrastructure. That's how their orders are processed. If they don't have it, I remember going into one day where they said, "Oh yeah, the computer's not working," and they were literally writing down your order on a napkin and passing it to the guy in the kitchen. And yet, fortunately, it was not a busy period, but the whole business almost ground to a halt because of the lack of the infrastructure. And I'm not saying that was necessarily operating system based, but the operating system needs to be bulletproof. It needs to be well vetted, and updates that are pushed to it need to be extremely well tested. And this is something that Microsoft has totally failed on with the latest version of Windows, with Windows 10, pushing updates very aggressively to everybody out there, which is fine. I mean, in this world where there's lots of threats out there and mistakes and bugs being fixed in the code, that's fine. But the updates that are being pushed are not being properly tested before they're being pushed, and that's what bugs me about it. And the other thing is they're forced. There's almost no way to opt out of these. So even if you find out that, hey, this update breaks certain things, it's very hard to opt out of these updates. They're automatically pushed on the computers. Another thing that also bugged me about this to no end is the fact that they were just pushed on the computer at any time that Microsoft felt like it. It's not that Microsoft was doing things maliciously, but people use their computers on different schedules. Some people don't use it on the same schedule every day, and to just have the update suddenly spontaneously start while you were trying to do something. Students were in class at university and their computer would just start rebooting halfway through a lecture because it was time to install a Windows update. I've had all sorts of things where I've tried to get online to do all sorts of different things, and my computer just decides, oh, I'm on now. I'm going to run my update, even though I have a meeting to go to or something else like that I need to meet with some people online. And now they've got to wait 20 minutes while my computer reboots 3 times while it's installing the update. So that was something else where I don't know who's making these decisions about the way updates are being processed. But oh my God, that was just painful sometimes to deal with. And that's just not the way, especially a company that I hate to say is as traditional as Microsoft, but they've been around for a very long time. They've been in software development for a very long time. I would hope they have a little more respect for users than that, but it just feels like they really didn't this time around. So the fast software update cycle has its pluses and minuses, even in the gaming world. And this is something else that we're dealing with. Is it's the way games are being developed now has changed substantially in the last 10 years or so. Some of it, again, for the better, some of it for the worse. And one of the things that sort of is starting to irk me a little bit more as time goes on is this whole paid early access concept, which is basically where users pay for the privilege of beta testing software. And I'm starting to have some mixed emotions. At first, I kind of was excited about it. Hey, we get to have our hands on some games early on and give them a try and see how they work. But you know, and knowing that it's early access, you're not always expecting a finished, polished product. But the product is not necessarily always going to end up being as advertised. So you pay for early access, and then you don't get what you're thinking because things change throughout the early access time frame, and it ends up being such that the game that ends up coming out at the end, perhaps under the influence of users, is not the game that you were sort of expecting. So my first thought to that is that all early access needs to be totally refundable. If it's paid early access, it needs to be totally refundable up until launch day. If you don't like the way the game turned out and the way things change and evolve throughout the early access time frame, you need to be completely eligible for a refund. Steam's got an interesting refund policy, and I kind of like it. The fact that if you only have played a game for a certain amount of time and for a certain number of hours and within a certain length of time, I think it's a week, you can get a refund, no questions asked. If you're under 10 hours or something on the game, that's a great idea. So people can test out a game a little bit and see if they're into it. With early access, of course, you may decide, it may take you longer to decide that a game is not quite where it needs to be. And in that case, you may not be eligible for a refund, and I don't think that is fair. I think that any game that's in an early access phase should be refundable. If the user wants to stop playing it, should be able to garner a complete refund, because you're basically, as a developer, you're getting free beta testing out of these users. You're charging them for the privilege of beta testing your software. And yes, you're going to give them a copy of the software once it's released, so I kind of understand that it's sort of like a pre-order where you also get to test the game. But I think, as in a pre-order, you should be able to get a full refund if the if the software has not been delivered. And if the software has not been delivered in its finished full release version 1 format, then you should be eligible for that refund. So I have mixed emotions about the early access concept. I used to like it. I'm beginning to like it less and less. There's some games that really I think it has worked well for, and they've managed to develop games very well. But I feel like in other cases, developers are taking advantage of it. It's just a way to get income before you really have a product that's ready for proper release. And it's interesting now, because it used to be like it was very hard to ever get your hands on a beta. Obviously, with the World Wide Web and the way we're all interconnected on the internet now, anybody can find out about these games and apply for access through this. You used to have to know the developers and be physically able to contact the developers in the past. So I kind of understand that it's a new option that we can deal with, but I feel like some developers are taking advantage of it now. That they're taking money for early access for games that are not complete, and then the games languish. Some games end up in early access for years. And then there's Star Citizen, which is just in a whole other class by itself, and it's not necessarily exemplary. It's an extreme example of the problem, but it is an example of the problem. I really do. And I think I'll be honest that I've been interested in Star Citizen in the past. I think it's a great concept for a game. I think it's a really, really neat concept, and it has so much potential. But that's what I say about so many of these early access games, is that I've said it over and over again. There's so much potential here. The question is, will the developer tap that potential and really finish it up? And some early access games are close to release, and the potential is mostly realized. Others are only halfway there, and it's frustrating sometimes to say, yes, I see what you want to do. I think I see where you want to go with this, and if you do go there, it's going to be great. But as it stands right now, it's almost unplayable in some cases. But then there's Star Citizen, as I said, and it's playable to a degree, but I think I begin to wonder, are they ever really going to be able to finish this game to do what they're hoping for, to meet the aspirations, because the aspirations have just reached unbelievable levels for this game. And with an unbelievable budget too. I read the numbers about this game. I understand the enthusiasm. I had the same enthusiasm. I loved Wing Commander as a kid, and I would love to play a game that sort of recaptures some of that spirit of Wing Commander. And there's not a whole lot of games out there. There's starting to be a whole generation of space exploration games out there now. But for a long time, space was it was funny that it was not. First-person shooters were where it was at, and the sort of the flying through space, Wing Commander, X-Wing, TIE Fighter kind of games have been missing for a long time from the PC genre. And it's nice to see those making a comeback. But I just don't know about Star Citizen. I think it's going to be one of those games that's just going to go down in history as not the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world, because I don't think it was ever started in that way. It was never intended to be that way, but now the expectations are so high, and the amount of money that they've taken from some people also really staggers my mind. I'm all for supporting a developer, and kickstarting and saying, yes, I think there's enough market out there, and the way it started out was great with a Kickstarter campaign, and okay, everyone kick in $50 if you think we should build this game, and that's not a bad idea. But now the amounts of money that they ask, oh well, we'll sell you this capital ship for $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, that. I don't think I can ever support Star Citizen because of this attitude towards their development. And the amount of money they've burned through already the development of this game, and they've got a fair amount to show for it, but it's not finished by any stretch of the imagination. And it's got the budget of a major motion picture and then some, and it's still not even close to finished. And you sort of shake your head and wonder what's going on behind the scenes there. What is going on that is... Somebody needs to take a little bit more control in this company, shepherd it towards, okay, we need to get a product out there. We need to get something out there that is, we can say proudly, is a first, at least a version 1, a full version 1, not an alpha, not a beta, but a full-on version 1 that we expect to be able to release and make money off of. And if we add content in the future and we continue to do so, then that's fine. But just the state that it's in right now, it seems it's been a perpetual alpha for 3 or 4 years, and it disappoints me. I haven't contributed money to their campaign yet. I don't think I will. I would love to try it out, but I think that Cloud Imperium has enough money at their fingertips to cover development costs. If they cannot produce a decent game with the money they have, then there are some serious management issues going on there, because they've got a budget that is not infinite, but from a video gaming perspective is almost infinite. It's leaps and bounds ahead of the budget of almost every other game that's ever been produced. Anyways, it's sad that it's reached that stage, because there was so much potential when it first started, and for all they want to do, it could be another 10 years before they finish their game to the point where they say it's no longer alpha and beta and it's actually a full release game. And it's sad that it's going to take that long. It really is, because I think there's a huge market for it. There's a huge potential for it. They could cut the game back to not completely to a shell of its proposed features, but cut out some of the more extreme features and sort of focus on it. Perhaps make it more of just a ship trading game. Trying to put first-person shooters in there. It's trying to be like the game, like the end game. It's everything. It's a ship game. It's a first-person shooter. It's an economic simulation. It's a survival mode. It's a build. It's every genre of game pretty much out there. And we can only do that for so long. I wish them good luck, and I hope they can succeed. And if they ever succeed, then I probably will end up buying the game as well and playing it, because it's the kind of game that definitely interests me. But it also strikes me too as something now that is built for the hardcore gamer, with the kind of money they're asking people to drop to get a decent ship. And yes, okay, you can generate money in game, but again, you're paying to win. It strikes me very much paying to win, and I have real problems with pay to win software, pay to win games. Well, if you pay for this, you're going to get the better weapons, so that you're probably going to win. And flight simulators are not immune to these kind of software issues. Generally, I think we in the software, or in the flight sim community, are more we have better expectations, we have higher expectations, and I think they're generally met more often because you can't fly a plane that doesn't have a certain amount of functionality. But even a lot of developers have released planes that have not been perfect at release. I'm just noticing we're now eastbound, so we're gonna go ahead and do that climb to 250 that I talked about. Alt cell. We're just going to put it in pitch up a couple of degrees here. Try not to lose too much speed. And that's 240 climbing 250. So I don't think that flight simmers are completely immune to this. There have definitely been cases of aircraft in development that have been in development for longer than they should have been, that were sometimes released with glaring bugs that should not have been probably released in the state that they were in. But I don't find that it doesn't seem like we have too many people offering like early alpha access to an airplane. Like people who are in the beta test understand, like, yes, this is a beta test. I'm testing the software, and I have expectations that I'm testing the software. But when I spend money on software, I expect it to work reasonably well out of the box. It may not be perfect. Maybe there are bugs that slipped through that were not found by the testers. They were working in a narrow environment. They knew certain things. They didn't operate the airplane a different way. They followed the SOPs. People might get in an airplane and follow a different set of SOPs. There's all green. So I get that there have to be bug fixes and it's impossible to make things perfect before release, but I certainly expect developers to do their due diligence. And when they put out a piece of software, it should be reasonably usable. The important primary features should be there. If the primary features are not ready, it's not time to release the software. I definitely feel that way. And it's not something that usually so much happens. And because then you also have the DLC affliction that affects so many games. And you end up in the situation where the DLC is things that should have been included in the original game. It's no longer an expansion pack. It is now, this is stuff that should be in the base game, and you pay so much money for the base game, and then you've got to start paying $6, $8, $10 for this expansion pack. Flight simming and it's funny because flight simming is one of probably the worst for DLC, as it were, because we have so many add-ons. We have airports and we have aircraft and so many things to make our sim better. But the one thing I'll argue that it's not really a DLC type of business model is the fact that it's a lot of independent developers doing it. So it's not like the one company. It's not like one company is putting out a really lousy game and then making a lot of money off the DLC because the game was really not complete to begin with. And I don't think that we fall into that trap in the flight sim genre, because the different developers are making money off of it, absolutely, but the original developer is not making extra money just because we're buying add-ons. Whereas you look at something like Dovetail, and Dovetail I think is one of the worst examples of this, is they put out Train Sim World, but then they put out so much DLC to go with it. And I understand you can have only so much limited stuff in the base game, but the amount of DLC that's out there that Dovetail is making money off of, and it's, in most cases, it's their own internal DLC. It's not other people developing it. And that's why I had issues with the way they ran Flight Simulator, and I would have a lot of issues if Microsoft restricted the new Flight Simulator to, you can only buy DLC through our store. If they were to take up that business model, I think you would have a rebellion on your hands, because there's a lot of developers who do a lot of work, put in a lot of time and effort, and they try to put out their product at a reasonable price. And if they lose 30% right off the top to the store just because the store just hosted their product, I think that business model is ridiculous. I don't think that that's a fair business model, especially because a lot of these developers put in a lot of time for what is a very small market. You're not going to sell 1 million copies of your software. If you sell 1,000 copies, you're doing well. If you sell a couple thousand, if you sell 10,000, you're probably doing quite well in the flight sim community. But you're not selling 5 and 6 figures, 7 figures copies of your software. So to take away 30% of their revenue right off the top just because, hey, we hosted it in your store, we hosted it in our store and allowed you to sell it for our simulator, I think is a horrible model. I don't think they're going to go down that road. I really don't. I think that Microsoft's going to be. I think Microsoft knows that there's a very strong community here. It's capable of organizing and working well, and there's alternatives to their simulator as well. Obviously, there's still P3D is going to be in production for who knows how long. There's no discussion of taking that off production anytime soon. X-Plane is obviously a very viable alternative to Microsoft Flight Simulator now. So competition, I think, will keep the market a little bit more open and easier, and it will definitely work to the simmer's advantage, the competition. There are multiple platforms available for you to choose from. If you don't like what one particular developer is doing, you can move away from that, which is good. And I think that's key to this community, keeping this community healthy. If we were dependent on Microsoft only for all of our software, then they could change the rules at any point in time in a way that was unhealthy, and we would not be able to do anything about it. And I hope that's not going to be the case. So I don't think that's going to be the case. I think, again, it's corporate. I hate to say propaganda, but it is corporate spin when they put out their developer conferences and they answer their questions, and the developers are out there. And generally, you have to believe the sincerity of the developers. They often don't have the final say. When you're working with a larger corporation like Microsoft, the managers at Microsoft will have the final say in how things are run. But I know that I feel like the developers are really listening to what the community is about, trying to participate in the community and be true to the community. So if that's the case, I think they'll have a good piece of software in their hands. If they fall down on that, if they fail to listen to the community well, there's alternatives out there. The community will carry on. Microsoft FSX is 10 years old, over 10 years old. The community carried it for a while, and they moved on from it. They moved on to the P3D platform and the X-Plane platform as they became more mature, when FSX became old and dated. And the community will speak with their money. So let's do a little check here and see how we're doing. So we got 1 hour and 15 minutes in the air still to go here. So we're making pretty good time. We are going to be heading down in probably about 45 minutes. We're going to be heading down. So I think at this point I'm going to step away for just a couple of minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and refresh my cup of coffee, take a nature break, and I'll let the aircraft continue sailing on, and I'll come back in a little bit to finish off the stream with the approach and landing in Toronto. So stick with me, don't go anywhere. I'll put this into our beautiful external view for a little while here. So I'll let you guys settle in with those external views for a little bit, and I'm just going to step away, as I said, for about 10-15 minutes here, refresh my cup of coffee and everything, come back, and we'll start talking about our arrival into Toronto. Stick with me. Alright guys, I'm back. Thank you very much for sticking with me. I hope you're still enjoying this flight here. We're slowly getting there. The headwind really picked up in the last 15 or 20 minutes. We're up to 86 knot, not headwind, but the crosswind. The winds anyways really picked up. I can see right there on the MFD we're up to 86 knots. But it's a little bit behind us. It's actually pushing us along a little bit, so it's actually helping us. Just a little bit of a tailwind component, helping get us to Toronto that much quicker. So let's have a quick little look in the FMC here and see what the damage is. Alright, so the performance page is now up to 46 minutes till we get to Toronto, and our first waypoint with a vertical restriction. Actually, I'm going to check the arrival because I'm not 100% sure that's correct, so we're just going to hit up the Navigraph charts really quickly here. And CDAB between 10 and 8,000, so we're going to put CDAB 10,000 here on this. So we're going to put, we'll go to the flight plan page and lock it in on the flight plan page. Oh, CDAB is there, but it's at 8,000, which is partially but not totally correct. And we would like to actually hit it at 10,000. Alright, so let's go ahead and put in some VNAV. CDAB, 0 miles from CDAB at 10,000. 28 minutes till we start down, 163 miles. We're getting there. Sadly, we're still dealing with a quiet, no VATSIM ATC kind of day. I noticed behind us now Atlanta Center did come online. Unfortunately, they're a little bit late for us. We did cut through a corner of their airspace, but we're well past it now. Pardon me, I had a little sneeze there. Okay. The other thing we'll do really quick here, so as well as our en route time, 45 minutes, still just do a fuel check here, 44.67 overhead Toronto. Still tons of fuel overhead Toronto, so we're doing pretty good in that respect. So we'll probably wait a little bit longer before we start prepping for the descent. Probably take this off because I find it is a little bit distracting when it's constantly moving, and my head moves a lot. What can I say? Just have a quick look at my Simbit world here, Pilot's Life, and see that it is marking our flight down here. Here we are. You can tell we're just about to fly over Pittsburgh in the next 10 minutes here or so. We're coming right up over Pittsburgh, on our way up to Toronto. Got 219 miles to go, 38 minutes is what it estimates. Doing 340 knots, not doing too badly here. We got decent speed at least on the way back. Got a pretty heavy bus behind us, so good to see we got a good heavy speed on, or a good tailwind helping us get back there. It's adding a little bit more. It's slowly picking up too as we go further north, so it keeps on adding more and more. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. Keep on adding that tailwind. Pushes along even faster. So if anybody's out there's watching, I mean, if you got any questions about the Dash 8, I'm always willing to try and answer them. You know, my systems courses are out there, and I do try to respond to any questions I see in there. If I've ever missed a question, try and ask it again. Sometimes the notifications get missed, especially if there's a bunch coming all sort of at once. I might miss a notification. So I do try to check them periodically to see if there's any new questions, comments, concerns, because my goal is to help you understand the Dash 8 better. There's lots of questions about the Dash 8. There's lots of interesting little things about the way it operates, and I definitely want to help all you simmers out there especially, and I'm pretty sure some of you real-world pilots out there are watching as well. Operate this airplane as best you're able. It really is quite a detailed external model, though, when you start to look at it. You can even see the individual little drain tubes here, the oil drains. You can see some of the air intakes for the generator. You can even see the reinforced panel all around the, in line with the prop to prevent damage from ice shedding, assuming the ice hits that panel. Well, one thing, anyone who's seen a Dash 8 that's been around in the winter will tell you, is that not all the ice hits that panel. All around that panel never seems to be big enough. A couple of feet on either side of it, there's always plenty of dents on that airplane. We did get a little ice there. I didn't even notice when we got ice. Wow, we could blow the boots and get rid of that, right? Let's do that real quick. Alright, so we'll go ahead and put the increased ref on, and we'll go ahead and we'll put on the prop heat as well for a little bit, and we'll blow the boots. And as soon as we blow one set of boots, somehow magically they're all no longer iced, even though there's 6 segments here. Well, there's 4 on each wing, and then you're going to see the tail go in about another 5 seconds here. Any second now you're going to see the tail go there. And there they go, and now the ice has gone off the tail. I never really watched it go before. I've seen it on there, and then by the time you look at the de-icing boots and look back out, it's gone. Don't see too much cloud out there right now, so we'll go ahead and shut that back off. I will say Majestic has done a nice job on the exterior of this aircraft. It looks really good. All the individual probes sticking out, ventral fins, dorsal fins. Overall, the exterior model is really good, and even down to the moving components, things like the engine intake bypass doors moving, the way the doors unfold and the stairs come out, all very well done in this aircraft. I guess it's time to start thinking about Toronto anyways at this point. We still got about, what do we have before top of descent here? I had it here a second ago. 39 minutes, so we're starting down in about 20 minutes. It's probably about time we should probably really start setting this thing up for arrival. So let's go ahead and look at the arrival weather in Toronto today. So it's not too bad. The snow has moved off. The temperature's almost up to the freezing mark, and the winds are out of the northeast at 6 knots with an altimeter of 3022. So let's go ahead and start setting up some stuff here. I'm just going to recalibrate my view here. Okay. So first things first, we got 3022 on the meter. We're going to put that on the standby, so we've got a reference in the flight deck, so don't forget what it is. Excellent. 3022, let's get some speeds in there as well. So go to the performance page, and this is the quick rule of thumb. Add 500 to the estimated weight of the destination. Estimated weight of the destination is 58,894, so add about 500 to that. It's 58.9. It's going to be about 59.4 is what we're going to be at when we land in Toronto. When we do the power reduction for the descent, especially for a long descent, it's usually a pretty good estimate. I'm just going to use 60,000 numbers because it's just easier. Alright, so, speed, so if we do a flat 15 landing into Toronto, 124 and 115. And then probably these are going to be about the same as they were before. Flat 15 becomes 28, which becomes 30 and 51, yeah. I think it's the exact same numbers we ended up using in Myrtle Beach when we landed there last week, so they were already kind of preset in the airplane. Alright, so we got landing speeds. Let's get some information. The landing runway is fairly long, we don't need to worry about that. However, we can get some charts up here. So, we are planning 6 left, so we're going to pin this one. We're going to plan the ILS to 6 left, so we'll pin that one as well. And then we can pin the airport chart. This is good enough to see what we're doing when we're taxiing. And 8 procedures and parking spaces is also often a very nice one to have. There we go. Alright. That one other thing we can also do of great use right now is let's have a quick look and see if I can't figure out, so I'm just going to look over here at the other screen for a second here, what gate to go to when we go to Toronto. So let's see if we can find, last time this flight went to Toronto, it landed at gate Bravo 7 Echo. So we'll see if we can pull up the same gate again. We're obviously way too far away, but it's good to know the gate ahead of time. We can also, we'll need to pull out our approach plates and get this all set up here. So, where, again, my Navigraph charts here, so let's go back to the ILS 6 left. So things we need to set, 1091, 057, and the minimums of 735, 740 we're going to set. So let's set that, oops, not that one, this one. Roll that down to 740 for our barrow mins. go. The FO, it's the same thing on his side. I'm just not even going to worry about it since no one's going to really be looking at his side anyways. 1091 is the frequency we're looking for. Oops, here we go, a little too far. And 109. There it is. Pop those up. 1091 up, and then we need 057 for an inbound course. So the FO is not flying. We can go ahead and set his. There, his is already set for mine. We're just going to have to do it this way. There it is, 057 is the inbound course. Go. Alright, so that's all set now, I think. I've got everything set up, and I'm pretty sure we had already set up in here the ILS to 06 left. Libby fail, and then, yeah, I-06 left, so it is the ILS 06 left. That's all in there. That's the landing point, and then no link before the missed approach. Approach our destination. Alright. We're getting there. What have we got now? 30 minutes basically to go here? 33 minutes. Not too bad. Alright, so we're getting there very quickly. So we'll go ahead and do an approach briefing and a landing briefing. So I'm going to pull this up over here on the FMS. I'm going to have the charts. In order to use the charts, I'm going to put them on the other screen here just because every time I click on a button on the FMS, the charts disappear. So, if you've got the charts for Toronto, you can pull them up and follow along. We're going to start with the Verco 9 arrival into Toronto. And this is effective on the 9th of January of 2019. I'm just going to do this. Sorry, 9th of August of 2019, 10-2H. And we are going to... And actually, yeah, that's a phone call. Alright, sorry about that. Good cell phone reception on the flight deck. Okay, where are we? Alright, the notes for Toronto, fairly familiar with. 100 miles safe is 49. This is for non-jets only for this arrival. And that's about it. So we're going to start at... I can't seem to get this thing to fit totally on the screen here. Okay, we're going to start at Oxman. Where are we here? Oxman, we're going to go to T-Mills, MyPal, Ling, then we cross CDAB at a max 220 knots between 10 and 8. So I put 10 there because then the next step down, Degro and Seagod at 8,000. So might as well continue the descent a little bit there. And that's at 210 knots. Then we go to Verco and do a left turn to Darpu, Danup, Basar, and Liran. And then continue on the 237 track until we're vectored around for the ILS to runway 06 left. So this is on plate 11-2, the 25th January 2019. The loc is IJS 1091, and 057 is the final inbound course. So just a quick. Yep, we got 1091 set both sides. Okay, good. 057 the inbound course. We set both sides. The glide slope check height at Vepna here is 2010, and the ILSDA of 735, 740 we did set down there. Touchdown zones at 535. The one thing I should also do as well is make sure that the LFE is set for just over 500 feet. There we go, that is the case. MSA is 3,100 feet. The missed approach is climbed to 1,100 feet straight ahead, 057. Then it's climbing a right turn to 3,100 feet. And fly a 132 heading to intercept the 102 radial outbound to the Two Dog intersection and hold. Notes: radar is required. Simultaneous approach is authorized. Procedure turn is not authorized. 3-degree glide slope. Pappy's on the left. ALS F2 lighting system. And that's about it. RVR 2600 or half mile. It should be, says it's going to be VMC when we get there, so. And that's all I've really got for that. Once we land in Toronto, it's going to be a convenient left turn off the runway. And since we're going up to Bravo 7 Echo, we'll try to make Charlie 1. And then we can continue the left turn right onto Alpha all the way up to Bravo 7 Echo, which is, oh, it's one of those ones way in the back. Okay, yeah, I know where Bravo 7 is. And that's about all I've really got. So, terrain is 3,100 foot MSA. Weather is not supposed to be much of an issue. It's supposed to be VMC. And operational, no NOTAMs or anything exciting going on in Toronto that I'm aware of. A little bit of construction on some of the taxiways. Gonna pull up my flight plan again and have a quick look to make sure I haven't missed anything here. There is Alpha between Alpha Juliet and Alpha Lima, and Alpha Kilo are all closed, so we'll probably actually plan to turn up Bravo. It's a little unusual, but it's only because Alpha's closed, so we're going to move everything over one piece of pavement. That's about it. And fuel situation. So fuel is looking pretty good. We're going to have 4,500 pounds over Toronto, which is lots of fuel. We should be able to, that's almost 2,000 pounds over what we need to go to London, so we should be good. That's about all I have. 10 minutes till we start down. There it is on the chart, just below T-Mills. There we go. I see a little bit of ground contact out there. It's not a totally overcast layer. And that's it. We're just about ready for our arrival in Toronto. One quick thing I'm going to really quickly do here. Anyways, I've done one little tweak. I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference. It looks like it's already made a little bit of a difference in improving the frame rate even as we're sailing along up here, so hopefully that'll be the case as we get down to Toronto. We shall see. That was a long flight. I'm glad to get these two over with. These are the two longest flights in my schedule now. After this, my schedule here in my Simbit World Life gets a little bit easier. These were the long ones, Myrtle Beach and back. Now it's going to be another Montreal turn and then a Boston turn. So I'm going to definitely try to pick out some ATC for the Boston turn and maybe also for the Montreal turn as well, just to make it a little different, give us something to sort of talk to, because it feels like we're fairly quiet here. It's a long way to go as well, and it just gives a little bit more interest, a little bit more realism, obviously, to be communicating with ATC and dealing with ATC instead of dealing with just making all my own decisions. Not that making your own decisions as a pilot is a bad thing. By all means, you should be able to be independent, make the decisions you need to make, but ATC is a great resource to have at your disposal all the time, whether it's normal operations or emergencies. Use them. They're there. They're a tool to be used, and I don't mean tool in a bad way. I mean in a good way. I mean whenever anything untowards happens, they want to be there. They want to help. They want to see a good outcome. They're not trying to get you in trouble. They just want to provide the best service and help the aircraft get to their destination quickly and efficiently. That's their job. I find that so often in this business, people have this what's the word I'm looking for? This impression, this illusion that ATC is like God and is knows all and is not to be trifled with, argued with, disagreed with at all. And that is not the case. Ask any controller and they'll tell you that. The controller's job, I think air traffic controller is a terrible title, and it immediately is part of where I think this misimpression of their job function comes from. It should not be, the word we're looking for is not controller. The better word is air traffic coordinator. I've always said that, and I think that's a very good way to think about ATC. They're there to coordinate traffic, to try at a busy place to try and make sure that everyone gets onto the runway and to their gate as quickly as possible, without risk of collision, in the most effective order possible. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's capacity constraints, and they may have to do things like have holes and such. I'm just noticing here that the FMS is not set up correctly here, so it's not that it's not set up correctly, it's that it's not cross-filled correctly. Flight plan menu, cross-fill, and cross-fill. We probably didn't cross-fill the fuel again. The fuel is probably fine. Sometimes ATC will do things that seem mysterious, but it's because of their overall situational awareness of what they're dealing with. If they're slowing you down, it's because they're trying to save you from actually going into a hole, because there's just too many people trying to get on the runway at the same time, and they're trying to avoid collisions by not having everyone on the runway at the same time. When there's an emergency, people are afraid to talk to ATC. ATC is there as a resource. If you have an emergency, yes, they'll have to file a report at the end of the day. Everyone's going to have to file a report at the end of the day. But that should never, first of all, stop you from talking to ATC. Tell them exactly what's happening. Give it to them in a plain language. Tell them as much information as they need to know. You don't need to tell them every last detail, but tell them what they need to know to provide you the best service. What are you capable of? What does this mean for your future flight? Are you going to need to divert? Do you require emergency services? Do you require help getting to the destination? If you lost navigation ability, tell them, like, okay, this is all I have. All I have is a VOR and a GPS. Or I lost my GPS, which I'm so used to having. All I have is a VOR. Can you help me out? Like, if you don't have the charts, tell them. Be honest. Yes, you may get a little bit in trouble for, okay, yeah, you didn't have the charts that you were supposed to have, you don't know the frequencies, but you'll get in more trouble if someone says, well, why didn't you ask for help when you needed it? Because at the end of the day, they're there to help, to make sure everything happens as quickly and effectively as possible. And people have this idea that pilots cannot find an airport without an air traffic controller to guide them. Again, air traffic coordinator. If it's quiet, I can still find my way to the airport. If it's busy, I can still find my way to the airport, but I'm going to need some help figuring out what the best sequence is between me and all the other airplanes. That's the job of an air traffic controller. And so many people, and there's no such thing as a hard and set instruction that you have to follow. Generally, it's a good idea to comply with ATC instructions because they're probably going to result in the best outcome for you, but any instruction that an ATC gives you is negotiable. You can say, we're unable to do this because, as long as you have a fair, valid reason, even if it's just you feel it's unsafe, at the end of the day, you're the person sitting in the airplane, you're the pilot sitting in the airplane, you are responsible for the operation of this airplane. ATC is responsible for operating all the airplanes in their airspace, and they may not be able to accommodate every airplane. They may not know about every airplane and every little difference. So if you can't do something, don't be afraid to voice up and say, hey, no, we can't do that. But whenever you say no, whenever you close the door, open a window. Whenever you say no, try to offer an alternative. We can't do that, but we can do this. Like, no, we can't do 260 knots in this airplane, but we can give you 235. It's the best we can do. We'll give you the best speed we can. So all the controller's looking for you doing the best you can, and give them the information they need, because if they're asking you to go fast, it's because someone's behind you. Tell them the speed you're going to be able to do, and they'll make a choice. They'll either say, okay, well, we're going to have this person overtake you, because they're going to overtake you anyways, or they'll say, okay, we'll have to get this plane behind you to slow down to that same pace. That's just the way it is. So the best way to think about ATC as well, and when you're dealing with ATC clearances, is that they're contracts. These are things that we have agreed to do once you've accepted them. But contracts can always be negotiated, either during or after. You can always say, hey, we agreed to do this, we feel we're unable to do this now because, and we would like to offer this alternative in its place. Or when the contract is initially issued, say, no, we can't do that, we would like to negotiate. That's always up for negotiation. Now, in general, of course, if it's busy, we try to be we try to comply as much as we are able. But again, work with the air traffic controller. You guys are both on the same team, trying to get the job done, trying to get the airplane to its destination. You're trying to get your airplane, they're trying to get every airplane to the destination safely. So you work together as a team. If you can't do something, say it. Don't be afraid to say it, and try to offer an alternative course of action. Explain the reason why you can't, and then between you and the controller, come up with an alternative course of action that will work for you. And now my rant has taken me pretty much, I think, to the top of drop here. There it is. So now you see finally that the VNAV path has appeared on here, which means we are capable of arming the VNAV. However, before we do that, we should probably set a lower altitude. So I'm going to go ahead and set my first crossing restriction here of 10,000 feet. Hit the Alt Cell button, and then we can arm the VNAV. And now she's going to track in there. Minus 1800 is going to give me pretty much a 2.9 degree, anything around up to 3 degree descent angle in the dash 8 is acceptable. Anything much over 3 degrees is going to be hard to maintain. You're going to find yourself pulling the power back to idle and still struggling to maintain the speed. With a little bit of a tailwind component today, it's not great. We've got 10 knots on the tail. Really, it's mostly a crosswind. It's not too bad, but especially if you have a stronger tailwind too, sometimes it's better to plan on an even shallower descent than the 3 degrees. If you've got a very strong 90, 100 knots behind you or more, plan on a shallower descent angle than 3 degrees. Bring it down to even 2.5 sometimes it works. Alright, let's bring up our VATSIM window here and just see if anything's going on in Toronto. Looks like there is one arrival. It's going to be landing a little bit ahead of us. He's already well in descent. I don't think we're even going to see him on the TCAS at this point. But we're getting there. Slowly but surely we're getting there. It'll be nice to have a shorter flight to Montreal. Those Montreal flights are busy, but it'll be nice to have that short flight at my something to look forward to, as it were, because this flight is long. There's no doubt about it. It's nice to have someone to talk to too. This is one of my single biggest problems with the whole idea of a single pilot airliner. It's not that the technology can't handle it, it's that the human beings can't handle it. Put yourself in a room by yourself for 3 hours. Don't talk to anybody, but focus on this machine. How many people can realistically do that and keep themselves alert for 3 hours? Heck, 3 hours, try 6 hours or 7 hours. Any length of time like that. There's a lot of workload in an airplane, but at the same time, it's also, during cruise, it's quite quiet. And just having someone to talk to who is in the airplane with you, who can then see what's happening as well, and knows when to shut up when things are actually happening. These are things that computers cannot replace. You can have a computer fly an airplane, and it'll do an okay job. Pilots will still do a better job most of the time. This is one thing about computers too, is that the computers in these airplanes, they're all still, I hate to use the word simplistic, but especially when you start dealing with like auto thrust systems, which the Dash does not have, but an aircraft with auto thrust, the auto thrusts are terrible. They're just simply close the loop, bring the power to where they think it should be to keep the speed, and there's no prediction of what's going to happen in the future, whereas a pilot can look ahead, even just 5 seconds, 10 seconds ahead, and say, no, I don't need to add power because the speed's going to come back in a second when we hit this bump or whatever, when we adjust the descent profile. So, as much as computers can fly airplanes, pilots can fly them better. Computers can fly airplanes a lot better with a lot of pilot input and a lot of pilot management. But then there's also the subtleties of communication, of double checking. Having a dispatcher in some remote location is not going to be able to keep you awake on a very quiet night. And it's just human nature when there's not a lot of stimuli. You've got a nice dark flight deck, just a nice gentle white noise of the engines turning the whole time, and not much happening. It's human nature to start to become drowsy and fatigued. And the person sitting next to you is going to notice that. He's going to notice your head sort of drooping, your chatter's falling off. The person in a dispatch who might be monitoring 10 flights or 20 flights is not going to notice these individual signals from individual pilots. So I think that as much as the airlines are pushing the idea of a single pilot airliner, and of course I am biased because I am a pilot, but I think the airlines that are pushing it from a practical standpoint, and a safety standpoint, it's not going to happen anytime soon. There are so many subtle things that happen in a flight deck that a computer could never do. Non-verbal signals sometimes, and even just having a second person at a remote location. Lots of non-verbal signals happen in the flight deck all the time, whether it be just a hand gesture towards somebody else. You just see them reaching for something else. And if I'm here in the flight deck and I see the first officer reach for something, I'm going to probably know what he's doing, and if I don't know what he's doing, I'm going to sort of watch and question it, perhaps. But if you're watching 10 flights by a remote camera, perhaps, you're not going to notice every time someone reaches for a switch, thinks about it, and doesn't do it. Or makes a subtle hand gesture. So, anyways, I should be doing the descent checklist here. So we're going to pull that out really quick here. Descent checklist. Fuel, we did check in our briefing. The approach landing briefing is complete. The cabin altitude controls are set for Toronto, and the cabin PA will say is complete. The descent check is complete. Next is the approach checklist, and here we come through 18,3022 on the meter in Toronto. So let's go ahead and set that now. There it goes, 3022 on the meter. Alright, we're going to be landing inside of 20 minutes, hopefully, here. Here's another little warning for you dash operators out there. Be careful when you adjust your altimeter setting if you're in path mode, because then the path will end up below or above where you are, and the airplane will have to either pitch down or up to help sort of regain the path. You can end up suddenly, especially if the altimeter setting is extreme, like 3022 is not too bad, but let's say it was 3062. So you had to crank it up a long way, and all of a sudden the path is 500, 600 feet below where you are right now. The airplane's going to have to pitch down fairly aggressively to recapture it, and you can often end up with a speed control issue. Fortunately, our descent's not too steep today, so it's not much of an issue. But that's definitely something to watch for. The airplane will often pitch quite aggressively to get back to that VNAV path once it's captured it. So if you make a very sudden, quick adjustment to 3062, it's going to pitch a long way to try and catch it. The alternative is to just slowly dial the altimeter and let it slowly kind of transition and slowly adjust to the new path with the altimeter setting. These are kind of the options you have to work with. Wow, that rudder trim is way out there now that we've got the power way back. Whoa, stop. That was way too far though, then it got stuck. Little rudder trim runaway there. It's better. That's pretty close to center now anyways. And we got the VNAV path back in the middle. Things are looking good. The wind's slowly dying off. We are kind of coming down into a cloudy layer, so we're going to make sure we do have the props and windshield heat on. We do. And hopefully the runway condition in Toronto is acceptable. I think it would be. It was mostly just wet. It's been warm the last few days, so even if the snow hits the runway, it's going to melt instantly. All the paved surfaces are well above zero still. It's just the grass that all got snow covered this morning. It's a pleasant little surprise here. First snow of the season. Nothing too aggressive though, at least. Alright, what's our distance from Toronto? We're about 40 miles back from Toronto. When we're about 30 miles back, we can start making Unicom calls. Just one extra last weather check too to see if it's updated at all. Still the same weather by the looks of it. That was the 1600 weather, so there's been no change. The weather's not deteriorating, which is good. Almost there. We'll also have to dial up the gate shortly after we start the approach checklist here. Gaining a little bit of speed here, and as we're approaching 10, we should start preparing to slow down. Just keeping the speed up a little bit just to make this flight a little bit... Oh, actually, yeah, we're supposed to cross CDAB at 250 knots, aren't we? So we'll get the speed back there. We're probably within about 30 miles of Toronto now, so we can probably start making Unicom traffic reports. We do still have Unicom up. We do. Alright, there's 250 knots. Drone traffic, good afternoon. Encore 30. 655 is at 25 miles to the south on the Verco arrival, planning runway 06 left in 10 minutes. There we go. Alright, we'll also start getting the approach checklist done here, so we get lights on, 10,000. And seatbelts as well. Go back on, thank you. Alright, and that's 11 descending 10. Hazy layer down there. Okay, let's do approach checklist. If I can find it, there it is. Altimeters, we got 3022, 12, and 3 set. And nav aids, probably should identify. We'll swing around and we'll identify them a little better. Fuel transfer is off. And I forgot to turn these on. Tank ox pumps are on. GPS landing flap 15 selected. Hide quantity, everything checks. Caution and warning lights, check. Seatbelts are on, lights are on, and cabin secure will complete the approach check along with the nav aids. So we'll plan on identifying the nav aids in a couple minutes here. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and dial in 8,000 and just start down now to 8,000. Just VS it down, minus. This thumb wheel is ridiculously sensitive. VS minus 1,000, that'll do. To watch the speed. Actually, as we get down through the haze, I can see snow over there. The snowy lakeshore. Hilarious that it's made the transition to winter scenery here now. And so well timed. Alright, there is one guy on the downwind ahead of us. Just looking at my VATSIM window in the corner there, and he should be turning final soon, I hope. Alright, now that we're below 10,000, we can also prepare to set up a gate at Toronto. Bravo. It says Bravo 7 is too small, so we'll go Bravo 8 then. Close enough to where we're supposed to be. Handling by WestJet. Alright, now it's starting to get a little bumpy in this cloud deck here, and we're probably going to pick up some ice in this cloud if I was a betting man. That looks like a nice filled cloud right there. 9,000 descending 8,000. Nice to see the snow though already here. Oh, and then you can see the areas where the snow didn't hit. It's like there was a solid lake effect snow band that hit that area and not that area. I hope Toronto has switched to my winter scenery. Oh, my Fly Tampa may not be switched to winter. I didn't even think about that, to be honest. Oh, and there is ice detected. Alright, first of all, speed checks. We can go ahead and get the increase ref on, and boots are on. And now we got this red line coming back as we approach 8,000, so let's go ahead and get that power back just a little bit. Alt. And refresh on my VATSIM window. Okay, yeah, the guy's definitely turned final down there, so we might see him as we go by. I don't think so. I think we're going to be caught in this cloud deck. But we're getting close. Alright, the other thing we can try to do is try to identify the nav aids. If I pull up my Navigraph charts on my other screen here, pull up the ILS to 06 left, I'm not sure if we're going to get them yet or not. So. Yeah, turn the volume up on VOR number 1 if I can. Manage to crank my head in there in a way that'll work. Not focus on flying, lost some speed there, but you know what, let's go ahead and start down to 4,000. There we go, VS minus 1,000 all the way down to 4,000. That should work pretty well for us. I don't hear, but I don't expect to hear the localizer yet, not till we start to turn towards final. We're kind of in the blind spot where we shouldn't be hearing it at this point. Alright. Anything accumulating on the boots there? I don't see anything on the boots. So we'll go ahead and turn the ice protection off for a little bit here. We were supposed to be 210 knots anyways. Keep the speed just a little higher as we go down. Technically, the speed restriction only applies at that point. You don't have to keep the speed. Legally speaking, a speed restriction only applies at the fix where it's marked if you want to accelerate again afterwards. However, the speed restrictions are usually there for good reason, so we usually keep the speed slowly trending downwards afterwards. She's really working to keep this airplane level. It's gonna be it's gonna be fun trying to fly it in a minute here when I have to take over and do the landing, but we'll see how it works out. Oh, did you hear that? Kicked right in. Alright, so let's bring this up here and we can follow along together, everybody. IJS, dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. That's on number 1, sounds good. We do have the right localizer tuned out. I think we're going to break out anyways before we really need the localizer anyways, but... Identify number 2. Sorry. There it is. Okay, that's good. So they're both good to go. Ice detected. I was not at all surprised about that. Getting a little bit slow here. Alright, yes, I'll turn you down. It's fine. Alright, so the nav aids are positively identified. We do have the correct approach tuned in. Just gonna slide down a little bit lower here. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll set 3,000 now. And very shortly here, we're going to turn our base. As long as we turn outside of fail, usually we're okay. That rain. I assume that's rain or snow hitting the airplane. Alright, let's go ahead and do that turn. So heading mode. Heading right around to 330. And then since we're off of the FMS, we'll go ahead and switch to VOR mode. Alright. Not sure what set up this weird crackling sound, but I assume that's just supposed to be snow. Alright, so let's really quickly sequence the waypoints here from Ulipi, which is 22. Enter, enter. There we go, it's fine. Don't worry about the flight path. Let's go ahead and do an intercept here on the 030 heading. And we'll arm approach mode, low glide slope are armed. Let's go ahead, high pumps on. Frame rate is dying as we start to approach Toronto now. I'm not sure. Alright, there goes Loke. Definitely got some snow coming in here. Alright, so high pump's on, flap 5. And the FA notification, alright. So Loke is in there, glide slope's not alive yet, but we're getting close. Toronto traffic, Encore 3655 is turning final runway 06 left. It is 3655, right? 3655, yeah it is, that's right. At $1 for every time I've called out the wrong flight number. It's a lot worse down here than I expected. I thought we were going to be out of it by now. I assume that static is the sound of stuff hitting the airplane. I'm not sure what else it could be. Yeah, I think that's the sound of Active Sky trying to simulate something hitting the airplane anyways. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and bring up the PFD because it's important to see what's going on and have it be fairly large in our field of view at this point. Alright, not too bad. I should sync this to the inbound course. .057 is set there. Glide slope, go around altitude is set to 3100. Nope. Come on, do it. There it is, 3100. Showing outside, still showing -3. It looks like we're going to land with the increased ref on. We're getting into winter. We're going to land with the increased ref on, which means for flat 20 we've got to add 20 knots. So we're going to be approaching at 144, not 124. I'm going to keep 124 bugged for now. Alright, let's go ahead and go gear down. Go flap 15. And because it's snowing, let's just go condition levers max. And landing check. Alright, so there goes VEPNA 2010, go around altitude is set. Alright, the landing check. So, landing check. Standby high press P2 controller on, landing gears down 3 green. Flap is 15 set and indicating, and the condition levers are max. Ice protection is all on. Lead air 1 and 2 is min and on, and the FA notification is PA. Cabin crew please proceed for landing. And that's it. We are set. Here's hoping we spot something out there. It seems to be, the weather seems to be a lot worse than was originally forecast. So the target's 44 knots. Oh, we got some ground contact coming into play, and I'm going to clear myself to land. Toronto traffic, Encore 3655, a short final, runway 06 left. Alright, I think I see some runway lights out there, Pappies anyways. 144 is the target. We're not taking the increased ref off because it is snowing out here again. So let's just try and find a power setting that's going to work for that. We'll stay stable. Starting to see the runway coming into sight there. Surprised the tower hasn't turned on the runway lights. And with the snow, frame rate is just dying a slow and steady death here. Alright, disengaging the autopilot. You really have to fly it on. When you're flying it at this speed, you really have to just fly it on.
100.
Okay, come on. Give me some back pressure here.
50. 30. 20. 10.
And we're going to need some brakes as well to make Charlie 1 as well as full reverse here during the slideshow that is us landing in Toronto. Wow. that snow is having a ridiculous effect on the frame rate. I'm just going to kill this because that'll probably help at least a little bit. Couldn't even tell what we were doing there because it was, the frame rate was so bad. Alright. Let's see if we can get off the runway here. That was a terrible landing, but it didn't help that my frame rate fell to nearly 0 actually. This is echo here, so just keep rolling ahead just a little bit here. Couldn't even tell how fast we were moving. I'm going to have to tweak these settings a little more. I don't know what is going on with this computer here. It's the snow, I guess. Wow. I thought we were going to have a decent frame rate. I managed to tweak it a little bit, but boy, it is bad. It's getting a little bit better as we sort of... I'm going to say that sound has got to be the sound of snow falling against the airplane, but it's a little weird now, so we're just going to remove that. I found where it is here. Vacate the runway first onto Alpha, but then Alpha's partly closed, so we're going to have to take a creative taxi route. Okay, gonna cross the line there. We can go just a tiny bit faster. Alright, and we can go ahead and say lights off. Stop doing that. There we go. Lights off. That was absolutely horrible, but... Alright, let's do the after landing flow. So we're going to take the left and right here onto Bravo just to avoid the closed taxiway. We still haven't finished the after landing flow, but we're getting there. Alright, ice protection can go all off except for the windshields. Tie. And then we'll read the after landing checklist. Alright, after landing checklist. What does it say? It says radar is off, transponder staying on alt, flaps are 0, control locks are on, tank ox pumps are off, yaw dampers off, light taxis taxi, anti-collision is red, and all the lights are as required, ice protection is all off, except for the windshield heats. Main bus tie is tied and the APU is off after a landing checklist is complete. That's all done. Wow. What a slideshow. And you start to get into that effect and you really lose track also of the speed you're taxiing at, which in the snowy conditions we should not be taxiing this fast. There we go, it's a little better. Alright, we are here. Hopefully our ground crew is waiting for us at gate Bravo 7. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 1 Almost there. The far end of Terminal 3. It's about as far from the runway as you can find a gate to get to at this airport. Gate Bravo 7, Gate Bravo 8, I guess now we said. Well, I didn't know it was going to be snowing. The weather said few clouds. This is definitely not few clouds anymore. It's lower visibility too. Can barely even see the end of the airport. Well, the next time we do a flight together, we may have to do some de-icing before we go flying. That could be fun. It's interesting for an Air Canada RJ to be parked up here at Terminal 3. Not a very good gate selection, but anyways. Head in and see if we can spot our marshallers. Wow. Wow, you're killing me here. Oh, and the Air Canada's gone. Alright, so it should be down there towards the end on the right, should be our gate. Follow, so we'll just do that. Okay, looking for marshallers. I think I see the marshalling equipment over there. See air stairs there as well, so. Not quite in the corner, but pretty darn close. I see our marshaller now, so marshaller's in sight, taxi lights off. Yeah, I see you, buddy. I gotta make the turn. Give me a second here. Go pretty slow because it's probably pretty slippery on the ramp today. With the snow and all. Oh, this way. Really? It's funny that there's a fuel truck parked under there. Alright. We are here. Welcome to Toronto. We just gotta do this. We gotta get the high pumps off and the bleeds off. And then we can commence the engine shutdown process. Start the timer. And call for the GPU. They should hook it up automatically. I really wish they'd also make that an option here. To like be able to turn on, like, connect GPU automatically with parking brake set or something. When things are in start feather. Alright, and shutdown checklist is taxi light is off. The transponder should be going to standby. And emergency brake is set. Standby high press P2 control are norm. Power levers are disc. Condition levers are start feather. Nose steering is off. Seatbelts are off. And bleed air is min and off. External power APU. We should hopefully have the external power now. And one thing the FO should have done is automatically set their thing to display system here. And it is external power is on. And condition levers 30 seconds. Fuel off. Lights are as required. Standby oxygen main batteries are going off. And battery master's off. Emergency brake staying on. And that's it. We are done. Ooh, that was quite the ordeal. That was way more snow than I was expecting when we got here. I thought we were going to break out at a couple thousand feet. It's a good thing we did everything, like check the... Let's see if I can get the bridge to move here. Operate the jetway, please. We did cut the engines, thank you. Open the door. And sometimes it works with GSX, some days it just doesn't want to work, so it's fine. Alright. Drive right through the fuel truck there. We'll just try to pretend like that's not happening. Door is open. Here comes the bridge. And then we can prepare to start disembarking. And we're done. Wow, that was a long Myrtle Beach turn. That was a lot of hours trying to get this aircraft there and back. I'm glad it's done. I'm not going to be doing it again. Wow. That is some awkward docking of this bridge being that this aircraft is so low. I think that's just that snow that's killing my frame rate. But anyways, that is it. So we're going to go ahead and go back in here and say current flight is done. And flight. And we're done. Another leg done in my schedule. Looking good. 3655 is done. Next is 3518 and 13 to Montreal and back again. Might be able to hook up Montreal and back in a single day if we really put a lot of time into it, but probably not. We got a little bit more experience points now, so we're getting there. And that's it. So thank you guys very much for watching on this snowy day out here in Toronto. We are definitely going to be doing this again. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this challenge of trying to fly a very specific schedule, a certain set of airline flights. It's more of a challenge than you like, and certainly with winter coming, the weather just becomes more and more challenging. So I'm enjoying the challenge. I like a good challenge in aviation. If we had to divert, so be it. We'd divert and we'd pick up wherever we could. But in this case, we managed to get there. So not that it was great. That frame rate really died. I'm going to tweak these settings here with this airport a little bit more because they really are bad sometimes. But thank you guys so much for watching anyways. I appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel, liking the YouTube channel and the Twitch channel. I appreciate you guys subscribing to both of them. And feel free when you do see me streaming to drop by and chat. I'd love to chat while we're flying. You know, not to distract me from the flying process, but I'd love to chat. So give me a call anytime. And yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching. We will see you guys all out there in the friendly virtual skies.